Hey, how's everything going today? We are back, and we for the last couple of weeks we've actually been working on. Let me get this set up here. We've been working on this Rock World. Well, actually, I changed the name of it. It's called Broken Moon. So make sure I'm connected here. All right. So thank you for coming back. We actually been working on this piece for probably a couple of weeks now for people that's been joining. And I did some changes to it. I wanted to add in. I actually worked on this over over the weekend because it was messing with my brain here, but I actually worked on the. I wanted to add in like a little planet or something like that in the background. So I actually painted in this sort of like this broken moon type structure, and really wanted to play around with that. And then also too, like I said, I wanted to call this piece "Broken Moon," but um, little changes that I did. I had the little sorceress figure that I had right here. I had it moved down, and I felt like it was getting lost in there. I don't know if I need to add in something down at the bottom, but we never know. I may add in something or just keep it as is. I definitely wanted the focus to be sort of maybe this little area right here, but I moved the sorceress up up towards the top, and then I started adding in like a little some lighting um, over the weekend. I may add in some texture with the on the rocks. You know, I've told people that usually I'm inspired by nature, really inspired by a lot of my morning walks. And a lot of the rocks and pebbles that I see, the water, that's generally my for me that's my inspiration. So I want to add in maybe some other little pebbles and pieces, maybe some different color on the rocks. That, like I said, no, those are just ideals, but I do like where this is going with the broken moon pieces. I may add in a little bit more texture on that in the background. Maybe knock it down just a little bit, and then I start playing around with some color too as well, adding in almost like a little fog type, uh, almost like a little bluish type fog in there in the background to play around with the lighting. And I'm going to turn on some of the other gradients that I placed in here over the weekend, and then I want to add in maybe some stars. We're on another planet, so I want to add in some other stars and stuff in there too. So for everyone that's joining, thank you for hopping on. This is for me. We've been working on this for the last couple of weeks, so really just going from scratch. I don't know if I'm even going to publish this or who knows, I may turn this into a poster. I sort of like how this sort of turned out for people that's been watching over the last couple of weeks, but maybe for people, for my fellow creators, maybe some inspiration. For me, I know I usually get these questions. I'm using my iPad Pro, and I'm working from Clip Studio Paint, so that's generally the program that I use for a lot of my concept art, a lot of my line art, before I switch over into Photoshop. So I love how this is able to for me, for Clip Studio Paint, it's an easy progression to transfer files over into Photoshop. So that's what I'm working from right now. But the name of this, I sort of titled this Rock World, but I'm officially changing the title of this illustration to Broken Moon. And so hopefully, hey, enjoy. Let me know if you got any kind of questions on anything. Maybe some things you're working on. Chat it up. Let me know. If you get a chance to check out some of the other stuff that I do have some artwork on sale. I've got some handmade coffee cups that I actually create with coffee and watercolors, and one of a kind. So check them out. I've got all kinds of different ones in my studio right now available. But right now we're just working on this. So we'll go ahead here, and what I'm going to do here. Let's see. I want to add in. See, let's go back, and I'm actually gonna put in my sort of color overlays that I had. So you see hopefully this gives an impression as far as how the color sort of shifts a little bit. I went for almost that bluish, purplish. For me, it's almost like a space type theme, which is what I'm going for. Um, I do like how all the pieces are sort of interplaying in the back. So I'm gonna go ahead and let's add in a little texture here on the rocks. I'm not gonna overdo it. Sometimes I tend to overdo on stuff, but I do want to play around with some textures here. So let me make sure that let's see what we got here. Let's think I'm gonna add in like a little. I know the when I go to the beach, I'm normally seeing a lot of moss, some green moss on the rock. So I'm a play around with like almost like a green moss type texture. Maybe paint that in. Um, let's see. I'm just gonna find one of my paintbrush tools here and just play around with that, and let's see. We'll see where that goes. Let's see. Let's add in like a greenish moss color. And I'm going to add a new layer. All right. Yeah, that's not bad. So something that's it doesn't sort of overpower. I want to keep everything in the same sort of color balance and tone. So that's why I love using a lot of my gradient overlays. So it sort of balances out the all the colors in there. How's everybody doing today? If you get a chance, hey, get a coffee and enjoy. Let me know if you're working on some things too as well. So I'm right now I'm adding in. I'm going for almost like a green moss. I think that's what I'm looking for here. So let's add in a little green moss on here. And like I said, I'm going to add in some highlights and other things. I think I'm going to keep that as is, but maybe the brown rocks. I'm gonna have that green moss on the top. Stacked rocks. I'm gonna keep the same. Maybe I could add in maybe a little green moss at the top. Who knows, or something along that. Just to play around with that. And right now, I'm not looking to. Not really focus on any kind of mistakes per se. Right now, all we're gonna do is just play around and let's just see where this goes. I think sometimes when we're creating stuff, we get so focused on the end product that we forget to play. I always sort of go back, even when we were kids, we're always used to just, especially for people that's been used to creating for, since it was little, we're always used to just playing around. We just create stuff, just, make believe, imagination. We're creating all these worlds, and we could care less about the end product. Obviously, when we get a little bit older, especially in the creative field, we do have to make make ends meet. But at the same time, too, finding really that time and space to be able to create and play. I mean, I definitely would encourage that. And right now, all we're doing is just adding in some moss, or maybe for me, I'm sort of imagining some green moss. I'm going to add in some highlights and some texture in here, but what I'm looking for is some green moss. I think I'm gonna keep the little white rocks. Almost maybe those could be like crystals or something. Who knows? I think I'm gonna keep that as is. Let's see. So let's make a new. I'm gonna make a new layer. I want to make sure that I don't. I already got enough layers as it is. I just want to make sure that I don't create too many unnecessary layers. And I'm going to switch my brushes here. So I'm looking for maybe a little bit more texture. Let's see. Got a grass texture here. Let's play around with that. Let's see where that goes. So right now it's giving me a little texture. That's not bad. So I think we can work with that. I think I'm going to change. Yeah, that's cool. So I'm going to change the layer opacity on that almost to like a screen color. I'm just going to add in a little texture. And I think that's all so right now I'm just adding a little texture on there in the moss that we were working on. I could highlight this a little bit better, but let's at least put this in here. So how's everyone doing today? Got a couple of things here. So right now we're working on this piece called I got this in the title Rock World, but don't worry about that. I've titled this Broken Moon. That's the name of the piece. We've been working on this for people that's been watching. We've been working on this for the last couple of weeks, starting from scratch, and building it up week by week. I actually worked on this because that background was sort of bothering me. I started off, I wanted some kind of world or planet. Maybe initially it was supposed to be the sun, but I was like, let me go with maybe like another little, exoplanet or something like that. So I painted the sort of like a moon type structure, but I wanted it sort of broken off. Maybe that moon is starting to break off, which heck, who knows? Maybe that messes with the gravitational pull of this planet right now. So that's the story right now. So it's called Broken Moon, and yeah, we're just gonna see where this goes. I'm gonna add in like a little bit of lighting, which I already started doing, but I want to add in just a little bit more on the rocks and on that moon. Um, Add in some maybe some stars in the background, and then honestly we'll be about done with this piece. I'm working on the texture on some of these rocks, adding in some moss. Um, Honestly, don't know if maybe I could have some figures down here at the bottom. Let me know. What do you think? When then we got the sorceress, which I had at the bottom. We got her pulled up to the top, maybe looking to pray to the gods or something like that. That's what the premise is for right now. But we can make that up as we go. Right now, I'm adding in some moss in there. Let's see. All right, we're going to keep adding in like a little bit of texture for maybe for some of the moss that's growing that I've actually always loved when I go walking on the beach. I've always liked the huge rocks with the green moss. For whatever reason, that always fascinates me. So we are adding some of that on here. So hopefully everyone is having a great Tuesday. Hope everyone had a good Labor Day. And also too, give me some suggestions. I know next week I'll probably be working on a new piece. Generally, I've got, I love my sci-fi. Love nature, love my comic books. But maybe give me some suggestions, maybe some things that you want to see. But right now, I'm just gonna add in some of the moss here, which looks cool. Let's see what this looks like. I could pull this over the top of the line art. I really don't know how that's gonna look. Yeah, see, it's so when I pull it over the top of the line art, it gives me this effect. I could dial that down a little bit, which isn't bad. But I sort of lose the line art. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull that back. I think that's better. All right. And then I'm gonna add in another little highlight here. And I'm actually gonna change the color on this to a light blue, since we got sort of this light bluish hue coming through. I'm gonna have that sort of reflected on the moss a little bit here too. Let's see. Well, let me change that. Let's see what might be the best. Maybe that pen light. That Yeah, that's not bad. All right. So just adding in maybe a little bluish hue to that moss that we just painted on there. Let's see. Hopefully, let me knock down this. All right. And that's cool. Yeah, I've got some of this line art here. This is some of my initial line art, which, like I said, I've got a sort of a bold, sort of sometimes a messy style with my sketching. Nothing, like I said, especially for something like this, I really didn't clean this up. But maybe I can find ways of blending this in just a little bit where it's not so hard. Um, I'm gonna see if I can blend that in just a little bit. So I'm gonna get one of my other brushes here. I'm gonna go back to my line art and let's just see if we can soften that up a little bit. Nothing too much because we've already done a lot of work as is. So I'm not gonna go too crazy on it. But I do want to figure out ways of just softening that up a little bit. Let's see, I'm just gonna find my brush here. I actually found the right brush. Sometimes you can have too many brushes here. And I am looking for one of my blended brushes that I generally use for a lot of my work here. Sometimes I hate looking through all these brushes. But I am going to find it. Just bear with me here for a quick moment. Let's see. Nope, that is not it. All right, I think we got it here. All right, let's. All right, found it. All right, now let's go in here and we're on the line art right now, and I think yeah, all we're doing is sort of. I'm going to adjust this here because it's too large. But we're coming through and just maybe softening that up a little bit. Like I said, I'm not going to do too much on this because we've already done enough over the last couple of weeks. But I'm just going to soften those edges up. So I'm using one of my blended paint brushes here in Clip Studio Paint to just blend the edge down. And at the same time, too, it's sort of cool because it does blend in with the colors. That's just a little bit that's in that layer. Let's see. So for anyone that can see that, I'm just blending those edges in. Honestly, if this was like a finished piece of work, I definitely with the sketching, I probably would have created the actual line art for this. But sometimes doing digital painting, I do enjoy like the messy process of it. I can always go back through and erase some parts, blend different parts in. That's why it's sort of fun, so cool about, especially with the digital art aspect of it, that I can just sort of blend that in a little bit more. And that's starting to soften up a little bit better. I do want to keep the sort of the line art because I do love that quality of it. And I want to make sure that I don't lose that. So let me know what you think. How's this progressing right now? Maybe you've got some issues that you've been working with, maybe with your own digital art. Um, this is really a space for you to be inspired. That's all it really all it is. Um, I know I find myself being inspired every day. I always see some amazing creators doing some crazy work, and uh, that always inspires me. So I'm just blending in just a little bit on the edge there. And I'll probably have to go over. I got another layer that I did some of my shading on. I'm gonna have to blend that part in too. Um, in this specific, and everyone's got their own ways of doing it. Sometimes if I go sort of like heavy shading, just to be on the safe side, I'll keep that. I'll keep my line art on one layer, and then I'll keep my shading and everything on a separate one. If I feel like I'm at a good stopping point with that, um, I'll merge the layers. I'll duplicate it and then merge it. But if I feel like I need to keep that separate, then I'll do that. So right now my little blendy paintbrush here is sort of blending in the line art plus some of my um, other lighting and stuff and colors from the other layers, which is always cool. But just making sure I don't lose, and I may go back over that with maybe with a dark paintbrush tool, something a little smaller, just to keep those edges like I want it. All right, we are back. Sorry, had a quick little technical mishap there. So we're we're back. Actually, it's out here on the West Coast. It's actually we've been having some heat advisory. So yeah, my dang phone I had to restart my phone because it was getting a little hot. But we're good now. So we're back, and so for people that got cut off, I'm sorry. We're coming back on. This was called Broken Moon. So where we're at right now, this has been a progression for something that we've been doing the last couple of weeks, and heavily inspired by nature, using some of the rocks that I see, and creating almost like some kind of weird, like little temple. I'm always a fan of like the stacked rocks that I always see. People are always balancing rocks, but we were actually working on this last week, and I placed a moon type structure, some kind of exomoon, but I wanted to break off the pieces a little bit and have something that was sort of cool in there. So I wanted to have some broken pieces off the moon, sort of floating around, maybe in the atmosphere or in space. Started playing around with some of the color tone on it, so I knocked it down almost to like a bluish and purplish with some orange. So if I turn these off, you can sort of see the color shift on here for anyone that's watching. But so right now, just playing around with those color tones. All right. So hopefully we got a good angle here. We can see this. So once I turn on the color gradients that I put on, it sort of gives it like a bluish, a orange and bluish tone. And like I said, this is just a culmination of some things that we've been working on over the past couple of weeks. But this is called Broken Moon, and I added in some sea moss. I got the sorceress we've been working on. I got her at the top. I added like almost like a bluish type feel on it with the lighting. I could play around with that a little bit more, which I may do at the towards the end, and then just maybe softening up some of the line art just a little bit. I want to make sure that I keep that because I love the sketchy feel of it. Like I said, this is nothing. Wouldn't say this is like something I would turn in for professional work. Maybe more concept art. I would have to clean up this line art. But this right now, this is just a more of experimentation more than anything else. And so hopefully you enjoy it. Let me know what you think, and I'm gonna keep progressing on this here. So right now, um, we're coming through, and I'm just blending in just a little bit of the line art here. So that starts to soften that up. But just making sure I don't lose the details. So for anyone that was on here, my had my phone trying to overheat. It's been a little hot, so I had to I had to restart it. So if I lost you, I'm sorry about that. But for people jumping back on, thanks for jumping back on and checking this out. So right now I'm just softening up just a little bit of the line art on here. I'm gonna switch this real quick because I want to make sure that make sure I don't lose some of that rock. Hold on here. And I'm gonna go back through and let's just soften that up a little bit. So I'm just going back through and sort of blending in some of these rocks. Well, actually, just the line art that I created. I'm just blending some of that in. And for me, just sort of building up, I want to make sure that I sort of keep the detail in the rock, but make sure I don't lose that within all the colors that we have on here. And for anyone that had been on here, if you're coming back on, thank you for joining. I had a little technical glitch there. Had my phone trying to overheat a little bit. It's been a little warm out here on the West Coast. Hoping it's supposed to be cooling back down. So we hope. Um, but yeah, I had to restart my phone here real quick. Sort of sucked. So right now I'm sort of blending some of this in here. And then at the same time too, just hoping that we can keep some of the details in. I'm just trying to soften up this line art. Obviously, everyone's got their own ways of doing this, and for me, all we're doing is sort of experimenting and really just seeing what the best, not really the best option. Everyone's different. Everyone has their own sort of unique style, but for me, this is maybe just a more of a experimentation for me. So I'm just going back through and just softening that up. And let me know too, like what things are you working on this week? Let me know in the comments. I'd like to see some of your work one day. Also, too, I have a podcast called The Creative Brew. Check it out. I've got a rerun episode out right now. Right now working on episode 250 of the Creative Brew show. So it's a cool little milestone for me. Been doing that for probably about 5 years now. Um, yeah, it's been about 5 years, and yeah, just keeping it going. So if you get a chance, check out the Creative Brew. That is on SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Look up the Creative Brew. But right now, let's see. That's not bad. So I'm just softening up a couple of these edges. I'm not gonna do the whole thing because there's some other stuff that I wanna do, but just enough to where it's just not so, I guess, not so edgy, if that makes sense. I don't know. So really trying to keep the impression of that rock without losing it. I may go over this um, here. I'm gonna switch my brush here. All right. So I've got that switched, and let me do some adjustments here. I'm gonna knock this down because I want to keep some of the details on that. I think that's better. Yeah, it's better. So definitely just trying to keep the impression of the rocks here. I think that's all we're looking for here without messing that up. And I'll probably have to blend that. I'll have to blend that in. But my biggest thing is making sure that I don't overdo it because it's already done, and you might as well work with the mistakes or whatever you're given. Who knows? But work with what's been given to you. That's my creative advice today. So just adding in like a little details in there in the on the rocks. Nothing too crazy, just enough to give the illusion. That is all we're looking for. Let's see. Just a little bit more here. Let's see. And I'm still, like I said, we have this space right here. We could add in maybe a bunch of little little people in there. I'm still trying to figure out what we need to add in there, or maybe not. No, no, maybe less is more. We've got this figure up here that I think looks better. I originally had her down here at the bottom. I think sort of pulling her up towards maybe with the eyes leading up towards more of the main part. I think that's probably a better choice here. And I hope everyone's having a good, good Tuesday, good start to the week. Currently, I am working from my iPad Pro, and I work mainly in Clip Studio Paint. I don't do too much Procreate every once in a while, but I just find myself this is normally the main program that I work in, especially if I'm doing a lot of my line art or comic book art, concept art, any of that. I usually work in Clip Studio Paint, and then I'll pull over towards Photoshop. Or even if I'm creating logos, I'll do a lot of sketching from here, and then I'll pull it into Illustrator and then create it, the vector, create like the vector logo and the graphics. Um, let's see. Let's see if we can blend this in a little bit more. So just trying to create, maybe those little cracks and crevices in the rocks there. I feel like I may need to add in maybe like a little bit of lighting on these rocks to make sure I don't lose that. So we're gonna go here. Let's go back and let's just add in. Just add in just like a little bit of lighting here. Yeah, that's good. Let's adjust that. Let's knock that down. Okay. So just enough to add in like some of the lighting on here. That might be too much. Let's see. Let's adjust that. And I'm gonna blend this in here once I sort of dab in some of my lighting here. All right, I think got all that. That looks good. All right, let's see. Got that. Maybe a little bit of lighting in there. All right, now let's go back and I'm just gonna blend this in. That's too much. All right. So hopefully everyone is can see I'm just adding in just a little bit of lighting there. I probably have to blend this in like a little bit better. Um, yeah, there we go. That's better. Let's see. Let's see. All right. I'm just breaking up this light source just a little bit. I think that's good. There's just so much that we can do with this. I mean, honestly, I love, for me, I love color and light. Um, Golly, I could actually play around with this color and lighting for a while. But for the sake of the video, I'm not going to do that. I just wanted to experiment with some things. Maybe for everyone that's watching, maybe give you a little inspiration too as well. Um, could we add in? We'll probably need to add in like a little bit, maybe on some of these rocks here. I think that's good. So I added in a couple of these like little rock pieces. Um, all right, I think that's good. Yeah, I like that. We can. I feel like I needed to blend in. Let's go back and let's blend in just a couple of things here. I just had some of these light sources here. I just feel like I needed to break that up a little bit. So I'm just trying to break this up a little bit. That's it. Sort of like how this is progressing. What I'm going to do here now is let's add in. Let's go to. I believe it's my hard light. Nope. Um, yeah, this is my screen color. So I've got a sort of a bluish lighting that I generally do with a lot of my artwork. I usually do like a little highlight on it on a lot of my line art. For me, it's a way of sort of softening up those edges color wise. Um, so I'm taking off. So you can notice if I take off the screen layer, you sort of see the difference there. Turn it back on, and you can tell the difference. I'm just gonna add in just a little bit because I had a sort of like a blue highlight color, and I'm gonna add that in on some of the rocks here. Um, let's see. So let's go with. I'm gonna go with my mechanical pencil here, but I'm gonna soften this up. All right. So I'm just going back through and just adding in like a little bit of a highlight. You can tell right around the edge of those rocks. And I've got this sort of blue, vivid light gradient that's going on. So the more that I work from the top, it's more blue. So it sort of fades down into like a sort of a darker blue and then a light blue. So if I turn off this layer, you can sort of see. If I turn this back on, it blends up into more of a blue at the top. So, um, but I'm just going back through and keeping those highlights um, sort of dialed in there. So you can tell that some of the line art or some of the sketching anyway is a little rough, but that's all right. We're just like I said, for us, all we're doing is just experimenting. Maybe I should add in like a little bit of light. You know what? I should do that. Let's. I'll probably need to go back to that sorceress and maybe switch the lighting a little bit. Add in because we got some blue tone in there. I probably need to add in at the edge maybe like some little streaks of blue. So we'll make sure we do that. So let's go to our sorceress. Yep, that's her. Um, let's go back screen. I'm going to take this off and I'm going to make sure that that's erased. And then we'll go back to this file and we're going to add in another screen. All right, and then so let's work. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to add in on the edge of the sorcerers here. I'm just going to add in like a little bit of blue that we're working with right here, just on the edge, maybe on the rocks here, just to keep that lighting source consistent. So let's hold on. Let's knock down that opacity just a little bit, and I'm gonna. All right. Now let's see what's. We could blend this. I want to keep these, maybe the lighting source. I want to keep that sort of sharp. I could blend that, but we may do that for another, maybe for another episode. So right now, I'm just all I'm doing is just sort of keeping the edges as is. Maybe I could switch that and maybe put like a light, maybe like a light orange right here because we got that lighting right here. So maybe have that lighting sort of come off on the opposite side. So maybe blue on this side, have have some of the blue, actually have some of the light orange bouncing off the opposite side. Um, don't know if that's going to work, but all it is experiment, maybe just experimenting a little bit. But I think for maybe for like a dramatic effect, I think this is going to be cool. So right now I've got this blown up, um, pretty large here, but I'm just adding in just a little bit of lighting. That looks good. And I'll definitely blend that. And then from this opposite side, a, I'm going to go with a sort of a brighter, maybe a orange. So that's cool. Uh, so which is all we're doing is just adding in just a little bit of lighting for, you know, for a dramatic effect here. Right on the edge here. I'm just going to add in that. So, and I'll probably, definitely, I'll blend this, I want to blend this lighting in just a little bit on the edge to where it almost melts into the light. And I think that's good for right now. So I'm going to go back and add in I'm going to go back to my sort of a blendy paintbrush that I've been using. And I'm just going to go back in. I'm going to scale down this paintbrush and I'm just going to go in and just blend that in a little bit. So I'm looking to do here. Yep, that's better. All right. And like I said, hopefully everyone's having a great Tuesday. Um, if you're interested in anything that I have on my that's available for purchase, all that stuff is available for purchase. I've also got an art book too that's out, and it shows a little bit more of my process for a lot of my artwork, character designs. That's available for purchase too. That comes with three of my trading cards, so that's all available for anyone interested. But right now, we're sort of playing around. I want to make sure I don't lose that. Let's dial that back a little bit because I don't want to lose that rock. So right now we're just playing around with the lighting part of it. I just want to blend that in. That looks a little better. That's better. I just didn't want to make sure lost that rock with all the light. All right. All right. What does everybody think? Um, maybe let me know what's inspiring you right now. Let's see. Matter of fact, I'm gonna blend in the edges on the opposite side too, just a little bit. So I'm just blending in the lighting here on these rocks. So we got I scale it all the way back here. This is what we're working with right now. Um, hopefully everyone likes this. Uh, I want to add in some stars at the in the back. We may do that for next time. Who knows? But we do. I do like where this is going. So I've got the lighting coming from this opposite side. This little light streak. Got a little bit of that light orange, and then we've got the blue from the opposite side over here too as well. Um, so I'm just blending in that lighting a little bit. All right, looks good. We could definitely see there's maybe some kind of game art or something like that. That would be cool. I wouldn't mind licensing this and putting it on some game art. Um, all right, so let's go back through and I'm going to add in. I'm going to go back to my main layer, and then we're going to continue to add in some of this lighting just right on the edge of the rocks. All right, I think that's good for now. Um, so we've got that. Let's go to our rock pieces. And I think I'm going to add in like a little blue in here too as well. In fact, I'm going to switch my brush here. And right now, we're just sort of painting in some of the rock pieces. That's all we're doing right now. From the moon, from the floating moon in the back, I'm just adding in like a little bit of lighting in there. Just enough to, to make it out. But I want to make sure that wasn't the main focus. So I'm not going to put too much effort into into that, but just enough for you to know that it's there. All right, I think that's cool. And all right, so now we are going to add in some of the maybe some of the stars. So I've got like a little speckle brush. I'm not gonna. What I like to do with my stars here, I got like a little brush that I use to sort of create the illusion of a bunch of stars without necessarily putting too much effort into it, if that makes sense. So I'm just gonna adjust that here, and then let's change this into. Mm, I'm gonna change my color here. Let's go with more of that, and I'm gonna make a new layer, and let's make sure we have this in the background. So right now, all I'm doing is just making an illusion of, man, we got all these different stars in the background that's in the universe here. So that's all I'm sort of doing with this background is just, and I'll do some adjustments on this. Let's see, here we go. I think what I'm going to do here is maybe blur this down a little bit. Yeah, I think that's good. That's good. So I sort of blurred down those stars in the background. Um, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to sort of fade this a little bit to where you don't see all the stars, but just enough to see in the background. So I'm just knocking out some of this. All right, so that's what we got here. So we got our stars um, in the background, got our broken moon with the lighting, and got our sorceress in the front with the lighting with blue on one side. We got a little bit of the orange streak lighting on the opposite side, and that's what we got right now. I could call it quits on that, and that be it. I think the most important thing is I have to make sure I sign this. So what I'm going to do here is make my layer, and I'm gonna sign this. I think that's I would call that quits for me. I could definitely keep going, but I think I want to work on something else next week. So I'm gonna go ahead and sign this, and we're gonna call that a wrap. And that's what we got. This is Broken Moon is the name of it. And this is inspired by my walks on the beach. So that's what we got. For anyone interested in this, let me know. I did record this, but even if anyone wanted to, maybe use this or maybe use this or maybe be inspired by it, let me know. We could do some kind of collab work. I may put this in my next art book, Worlds Within Worlds, Volume 2, and sort of show more of I've got all the line art, the process sketching and all that. So I'll probably put that in there, show what color tones I used, my thoughts on it, but I think this is pretty cool. So next week we're going to work on a new piece next week, and just let me know what you think. Also, too, I've got stuff on the online store. I've got art books, coffee cups. I'll be adding in like some little trading cards too as well. I actually got trading cards with those art books. For anyone that's interested, you want to purchase one that comes with three randomly assorted of some of my trading cards that I have. Um, So if you're interested in that, hey, check it out. Uh, purchase one if you want to. But I do want to, show my support. Thank you for everyone that's been watching this, and this helps me out with my process too, especially teaching and learning too as well. But I do want to perhaps in the future make more workshops sort of based around this, but it does help sort of showing my process and really just talking and guiding through it. So thank you for everyone that's been listening. And next week we're going to work on a new piece. So if you got any suggestions, send me a message. Other than that, we're gonna stay with almost. We may stay with the rock theme. I may go with something else. Um, Maybe something definitely nature inspired, but it might be more of trees or maybe some kind of forest or something like that. Who knows? We'll figure that out next week. But thank you for everyone that's been checking it out, and let's keep it going. See you next week. So that's what we got.